Zimbabwean families and Malawian families, we express our sincere condolences. I do know one of the drivers actually comes from the same village as myself, and we are saddened at what happened. And we hope that the victim's family will find solace and will also find justice. At the same time, let me, on behalf of the MDC and the people of Zimbabwe, express our sincere condolences to the Orange Democratic Movement of Kenya, as well as the Kenyan people, on the demise of a long-term friend of the MDC and the former Prime Minister of their country, Mzee Raila Odinga. As you know, Honorable Odinga used to grace our occasions as the MDC. He was with us when we did our Congress in 2011 in the Baba Fields. So we learned with sadness that he had passed on while on a trip in India. Ladies and gentlemen, the MDC continues to register a lot of milestones. Just recently, we were invited to the United Kingdom, where we attended the conference of the Labour Party. This is the 4th time in a row that the MDC is being invited at such an important international forum. We are aware, of course, that there were a lot of efforts made by Zimbabweans within the opposition to try to embarrass us, to try to stop us from attending this conference. And we are grateful that all these shenanigans that they tried to do were ignored by the British government. The reason why we attend conferences of the Labour Party is because the Labour Party is our sister party. It came from the trade unions. It is a social democratic party. We came from the trade unions. We are a social democratic party. So meetings like that provide us with an opportunity to interact with the other political parties across the world. At that conference, we met a delegation from Ghana, and these are from the ruling party of Ghana now, the NDC. We also met a delegation from Cameroon, and I'm happy to say that we were the only delegation from Southern Africa. So we feel honored indeed, we feel flattered indeed as the MDC to interact with other people from across the world. We did meet quite a number of leaders of the democratic parties, leaders from Sweden, Hungary, Iraq, the United Kingdom itself, France, Malta, and a number of the Scandinavian countries, the Norwegians, as well as the Germans and the Danish people. We also met people from Eastern Europe, Estonia, etc. So this was a big interaction indeed. And we had a number of side meetings with representatives of those delegations. I was happy to meet the former Prime Minister of Australia, Madame Julian Gillard, a very big inspiration indeed, and now a friend of the MDC. So we made a lot of friends. In one of the meetings where leaders of visiting political parties attend, we were about 40 people coming from all over the world. And the good thing is that the MDC was represented. We are aware that there are certain people within the opposition who even wrote so that they will be included in the delegations. Unfortunately, their applications were declined. We are very happy as the MDC also that we took advantage of our international engagements to advance both national and international interests. For example, we took advantage to address the problems that are faced by 4 million Zimbabweans within the diaspora. As you know, that there is a lot of injustice that happens to people in the diaspora. We were able to address that. We were also able to deal with issues relating to how the diaspora people are treated here in Zimbabwe. They are contributing to the fiscus. They are bringing a lot of remittances to Zimbabwe every year, and yet they are disenfranchised. So we took opportunity to continue our fight for the diaspora vote. Of course, we are going to intensify our interaction with the people within the diaspora itself, irrespective of political opinions. Previously, it was difficult to interact with some of them because some of them were very, they had a lot of animosity on the MDC. But I'm happy to announce that that has changed, and from the discussions with the Zimbabweans in the diaspora, they now want us to interact with them wherever we go. We also took advantage to discuss certain issues that affect Zimbabwe. For example, the MDC is a proponent that Zimbabwe must be allowed to join the Commonwealth. It is important that we join the Commonwealth for a number of reasons. Number one, if we are able to join the Commonwealth, our industries, our business people will have access to credit that comes from the Commonwealth. They will also have access to markets within the Commonwealth. So it is important for the Zimbabwe business that we are in the Commonwealth. Ease of travel is also one of the advantages of being in the Commonwealth. As you know, number three, there are a number of scholarships that the Commonwealth does give to scholars. So our students within Zimbabwe will be able to access Commonwealth scholarships. And this is incredibly important for our land. And then, of course, as you know, ladies and gentlemen, sport is no longer a luxury. It is a means of earning a living. So if our athletes are able to compete in the Commonwealth Games, it is good for Zimbabwe. So the MDC is a proponent of Zimbabwe rejoining the Commonwealth. And we did express that whenever we got the ear of people within the British establishment. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that the MDC has been known for since the time of Morgan Tsvangirai is the campaign to have Zimbabwe's international isolation removed. It is important that all the sanctions that are operating against Zimbabwe be removed. We do not take this to be assisting ZANU-PF. No, the people who bear the brunt of sanctions are the people of Zimbabwe, are the people who are oppressed and downtrodden already. So those sanctions must go, and we have taken advantage of our being there to express our desire that these things must go. The MDC remains the first political party to fight against the 2030 agenda. We cannot accept a situation where our constitution is desecrated because people are selfish, because people are self-serving, because people are enjoying life on behalf of the masses. There is no reason why President Mnangagwa must extend his term of office beyond what he is allowed in the constitution. For that reason, we stand firmly opposed to the so-called 2030 agenda, and we will resist it with all our might. We are not doing this to spite anyone. We are not doing this for our own gain. We are doing this for the interest of the future of Zimbabwe. If we have this 2030 agenda, there will be so much instability in our country. It is foreseeable. Already they are fighting within ZANU-PF. And this is a fight of people who have access to dangerous property. They have access to dangerous weapons and so on. So why risk the lives of the people of Zimbabwe by engaging in an adventure that does not help them? Number two, why should we give President Mnangagwa, who is over 80, with another term? He has been minister since 1980, and he has been president, first completing the tenure of President Mugabe, and the 2 terms that he has been given. He needs to be a very ungrateful man to seek anything beyond that. Third, there is nothing special that we have received from his presidency at all. Zimbabweans continue wallowing in poverty, although they say that there is economic development in Zimbabwe. Average Zimbabweans have become poorer. Some Zimbabweans cannot afford a meal a day, every day. And there is a lot of unemployment. So why should we have the 3rd term? And then 4th, it just cements our characterization by the international community as a pariah state, a state that does not abide by its own laws. And then lastly, the MDC was an active participant in the drafting of the constitution, and it had the views of the people of Zimbabwe. The people of Zimbabwe want a limited term. Somebody rules the country, is given a 2nd term if possible, and then they go home. So we remain opposed to the so-called 2030 agenda. We know that the government has started a program to deal with the victims of Gukurahundi in Matabeleland and in the lower Midlands region. Although we do not have sight, we have not had sight of much progress in that program, we think that it is worth engaging the local people. But the reports we continue to receive is that the meetings are characterized by apathy because the local people are not trusting this program. So we still call upon government to continue to try to assist the victims of Gukurahundi. But as the MDC, we are going further. Post Gukurahundi, there was a lot of violence. Violence in 2000, for example, after the formation of the MDC, 2002, and culminating in 2008. In 2008, the MDC lost over 300 of its finest youngsters, including Tondera Indira, Beta Chokururama, Godfrey Kauzani, Kenny Nyeve, Shepard Jani, and a lot of people. Joshua Baka Cheza is one of them. So these people were murdered in cold blood. And after that, of course, we had shootings that did take place. The MDC is calling upon government to compensate the victims of the politically motivated violence, among other things that took place, among other years that took place in 2008, before and even before and after that. These people must be compensated. So the compensation is going to be targeted towards the families of the victims of the people who were murdered. But we are also looking at people who were internally and externally displaced. They need to be compensated. And then we are looking at people who were maimed, who were injured as a result of this senseless violence. To that end, the MDC has written a letter to President Mnangagwa to alert him of this demand. It is a serious demand. We want compensation for people who were murdered by ZANU-PF. And President Mnangagwa, when he sees the letter, hopefully will reply. But we will not end there. We will engage the government to see how compensation can be met if the government is responsive. If the government is not responsive, we will do something about it. And we have already looked at how we are going to deal with that. Ladies and gentlemen, the MDC provincial chairpersons met on Saturday and made far-reaching decisions. One of the decisions is that Zimbabwe is suffering. There is economic decline, unemployment, corruption, lack of accountability, inequality, rising prices of basic commodities, and lack of serious electoral reforms. Therefore, the MDC in the next few weeks is going to roll out a program of peaceful demonstrations, demonstrating against these national grievances, including, of course, the issue of electoral reforms. So the MDC is going to roll out the systems of demonstrations. These demonstrations will be carried out in terms of Section 59 of the Constitution. They will be peaceful and they will be aimed at enlisting a positive response from the government on the issues that are affecting the masses. Right now, our masses are suffering. Poverty is escalating. Misery is escalating. Our youths are now afflicted by drug abuse due to unemployment. We have so many educated and intelligent youngsters who have nothing to do, and they have now taken to drugs. So we need the government to redress this. Sure, if the government can splurge so many cars on people, surely they can divert that money to building factories and firms to employ the youngsters. So the MDC is going to demonstrate. And no one, absolutely no one, will stop the MDC from enjoying its constitutional right. As the MDC, we continue our call for the unity of purpose of all progressive forces, including opposition political parties. We made this call before, we continue to make it. That the MDC stands ready to work together with all democratic forces so that we remove the system of oppression, corruption, and misrule. Now, when we talk about unity of progressive forces, there are certain conditionalities that we insist upon. Mutual respect, adherence to certain principles, especially the principles of democracy and constitutionalism. So we are willing to work with other people. We are willing to work with other political forces. And at this point in time, I wish on behalf of the leadership to still extend the olive branch for those who left the MDC to come back if they want to come back. So you are free to come back to your party, you are free to come back to the MDC, but what we won't allow as the MDC is an attempt at a hostile takeover of the party. That we will never agree. So all progressive forces are called upon to come together. We are also, as the MDC, advocating for a system of comprehensive reforms. We've been taking part in recent by-elections. And why we did that was to test the electoral reforms that ZEC said it had brought. But we have noticed that those reforms are meaningless. For example, ZEC is doing nothing about vote buying. And we saw in Epworth, at night before the election, truckloads of foodstuffs. So they are weaponizing food in order to get elections. And in a normal democracy, that is a scandal. In a normal democracy, that calls for disqualification of people. So we need electoral. After that, we have provincial congresses. Now, at these provincial congresses, which are 15 in number, the MDC has 15 provinces, including Chitungwiza is a separate province, Midlands North is a separate province. So it has 12 provinces within the country. Then we have the province of the United Kingdom, the province of South Africa, and the province of the United States. So all these provinces are going to have their congresses. And at the congresses, Voting is going to be by secret ballot. We want the members of the MDC to express themselves freely. We will emphasize on free and fairness of the internal processes. And we will disqualify those people who want to abuse money, who want to abuse others in order to get political office. We will not agree. And then after that, we will then set a date for the National Congress of the MDC. This is the Congress that is going to elect the president, members of the standing committee, etc. We were advised that there are certain people within the MDC who are advocating for constitutional reforms within the MDC so that the systems are better democratized. So they are calling for election of all the offices. And we have said to them, if they have those constitutional ideas, they are free to bring them, and these will be debated. If they are favored by the majority, they will be effected. We are thrilled, exhilarated, and feel exalted by what happened yesterday. Yesterday in the High Court, justice was done at last. In 2011, MDC acquired its stand at Freedom Square. It is a historic stand because it has been a venue for our crossover rallies. Without our knowledge, the government confiscated this property in 2013, but it did not advise us. So we continued paying our rents and our dues to council for a period of 11 years. And then in 2024, after 11 years, the council wrote us a letter that our lease agreement had been cancelled in 2013. That is 11 years before. We were very unhappy about that because why were they receiving our money for 11 years and failing to tell us for 11 years and only telling us when we said we want to build on our stand? So we took them to court, the City Council of Harare and the Minister of Local Government. So yesterday, judgment was given. The MDC won its stand back. We are, by operation of law, what is now called a statutory tenant. What that means is that the municipality cannot change anything about our occupation of Freedom Square. They cannot, for example, they cannot increase the rates, they cannot evict us, they cannot stop us from building, they cannot refuse us to buy the stand if we want to do that. So we are a statutory tenant and we are in a very, very strong position. May I take this opportunity to thank all the officials who took part in this fight. Councillor Zumba was instrumental. We have Dr. Msevenzi, who helped in one way. We have the Secretary General, we have Wabuta, and many of the officials who were working hard to supply the lawyers with the information. Now, just to give you an idea of how unfair this council was, in 2024, we wrote to them in 2023 that we wanted them to survey our land and give us the demarcations. They did that, they surveyed the land, they charged us, they surveyed the land, they even drew diagrams and gave us diagram of our land, well knowing that the land had been confiscated 11 years ago. So the judge then said that this was unfair and unjust. And the minister, the new minister, said, well, I wasn't there, but why did you take people's land? So the minister said, he will listen to what the court will say, and that he has nothing to say to court yesterday. And we are very happy about that because there was nothing to say. So we won our case, and this is the beginning of fundamental victories that MDC is going to post. Now, for members of the MDC, there was jubilation. For all right-thinking members of the MDC, there was jubilation. There are some people, of course, who will doubt until they see the court order. And I'm happy to say that the court order is now out, and we are going to make it available to our party members. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for this, and I'll wait for your questions. Thank you. The MDC did go through periods of turbulence. It was mischaracterized. At one point in time, it was a subject for propaganda by the so-called G40, which was in collusion with a section within the MDC. And after that, the G40 went with an entity called the CCC when it was still together. And they helped each other to denigrate the MDC, to mischaracterize its leaders. What is important is that the MDC has remained standing in spite of all those incessant attacks. What that means is that it is a strong brand. Very few leaders would have survived the onslaught, but we have survived the onslaught. And right now, you can see that we have gained more and more international relevance. We are making international strides, connecting with our friends across the oceans. But also that we have managed to maintain the integrity of the party. The MDC is the only stable political entity on the land right now when it comes to opposition parties. It is the most stable. It has preserved the integrity of its assets, its name, its values, its constitution, and that is the most important thing. And therefore, you will see that there will be better visibility. There is a program that the youths have started now. They are going to be rolling it out in a few weeks' time, and you will see better visibility. And you will see also that there will be less political posturing. There is no rhetoric. We are going to do the real thing. The MDC is the first party and probably the only party that fought delimitation. It is the only party and the first opposition party to fight against the 2030 agenda. It was derided, it was insulted, but the people of Zimbabwe are seeing now that the MDC was correct. Now, somebody said one day that if I walked in the streets, I would be killed by people. At one point in time, somebody dared me to walk in First Street. But whenever I walk in Highfield, in Chitungwis, in Mavuku, I meet a lot of people who want selfies with me. So things have changed. Zimbabweans have seen better. Zimbabweans now understand who political pretenders are and who the genuine people are. Genuine politicians thrive irrespective of season. When the political season is bad, they stand by principle. And I'm happy that the leadership of the MDC has stood by principle. And the faithful supporters of the MDC have not wavered. And now the political dividend is coming. And we are now in a position even to invite others because we are the most stable political entity. And we have now gained the trust of the masses, and we will continue to gain that trust. So the visibility is going to increase. And now it brings me to the issue of the demonstration. Of course, I'll take part in the demonstrations. The leaders will take part in the demonstrations. These are peaceful demonstrations. We are not going to thrust people's children into the street while we are safe in Harvest House or in our houses. No, we are going to address the demonstrations We are going to walk with them. We are going to march with them because these are peaceful demonstrations and we have called for them. Yes, we have seen political leaders who call for demonstrations, but they are never found on the day of the demonstration. And hope that the masses go in and somehow wait for them. That's not what we are going to do as the MDC. We are going to demonstrate just the way as Morgan Tsvangirai did. After all, when he was doing that, we were there. Some of us were his general secretaries, and we would plan this with him. Deputy General Secretary, he was in the youth, she was in women, and he was in the organizing. So when Morgan was doing things that he was doing, we were with him. So there is no paucity of experience and knowledge on how it ought to be done. So to answer your question directly, Mary, yes, we will be there. These are going to be responsible demonstrations. After all, we want to control our people to make sure that they don't destroy people's property, they don't beat up anyone, they don't violate anybody's rights, but they advance the interests of the people of Zimbabwe. The diaspora vote, of course, you know that in terms of the Constitution was written in a very simple manner. Every Zimbabwean has the right to vote. It does not say every Zimbabwean has the right to vote provided they are in Nyanga or Masvingo or in Cholocho. It says every Zimbabwean has the right to vote. You don't cease to be a Zimbabwean because you are in England. So the MDC has gone beyond just rhetoric. It has crafted a document using Zimbabwe within the diaspora. And this document, we are waiting to present it to the Zimbabwe Election Commission and to the government. And this document deals with how to make the diaspora vote safe, how to make the diaspora vote beyond manipulation. What do we do? And the document is there. It was written, I think it was written in 2016. And we tried to present it to government, but unfortunately, we were not able to do that. And also, unfortunately, MDC then had a lot of changes in leadership. Our leader was not feeling well up to 2018 when he then died. So that did affect our presentation of the document. So we have that document, and that document paves way for the legal framework. Legal framework, Mary, is there. The first legal framework is the Constitution. The Constitution says every Zimbabwean has the right to vote. That's the first fundamental legal framework. And then all we need to do is to amend the Electoral Act by removing the residency qualification. So we were prepared in 2023 for a compromise with government because they were saying that now if a vote comes from the diaspora, how do we allocate it to the ward and to the constituents? That means we have to sort the papers on so many occasions. And then we said at that point in time, because there was no time, we can restrict the diaspora vote to the presidential vote. Because for presidential vote, the country is one constituency. So there's no sorting to be done. Again, that found no takers. Unfortunately, at that point in time, we withdrew from the election. But the good thing is that we are willing to help the government with how to craft the legal framework. And I can tell you, Mary, it won't take me 5 minutes to do it. It's one of the simplest things that you do. It is to simply point to the Constitution and to remove that offensive clause which deals with the residence qualification. And you are done. You have your diaspora vote.